Cuba, it's me. Welcome to episode 263 of The W.I.L.L.I.W Show, which stands for Wrestling is Life, Life is Wrestling. What are some of your pet peeves on an indie wrestling show? What are some things that you don't like that makes it seem like a smaller promotion, makes you definitely feel like you're not at one of the big shows? And what are some things you like at indie shows that you don't get the feeling of from watching one of the bigger shows? So I'm going to start with the negative because I like to end with the positive. Um, Now, don't get me wrong, not all these shows do it, and these are just opinions, but certain things I don't like. I don't like promos on an indie show. I feel like they don't really have a place. I feel like a lot of the fans are casual fans and they want to just see action and they don't follow the storylines. I feel the promos should be reserved for social media. If you have your diehard fans, they'll watch them there. They'll fill in the fans next to them as what's going on. I understand it when you're setting up for the main event, if you have a quick little thing earlier in the show. If it's quick, I don't want to see a 10-minute promo on an indie wrestling show. That's just me, though. Some people like it. Um, to me, the music can be a real pet peeve of mine. People don't seem to know how to get the volume right. When it's too quiet, it doesn't have a good effect. Like, it just doesn't seem like, oh my god, somebody's coming, something's happening. When the music's really loud, it's like, okay, something's happening. But on that token as well, during the intermission, I hate when the music's that loud because I'm trying to talk to the fans and the little kids and I can't hear them. And I understand, especially if you're serving alcohol, that when you have music, it keeps people's adrenaline going and it makes them want to spend more money and it just makes you seem, keeps your energy level up. So I get that, but I wish they were a little bit more quiet at the intermissions. 50/50s, I don't mind that and those kind of things, and putting over the sponsors. I mean, all that stuff kind of bores me, but it's important for the show to have sponsors, so I get that. One of my biggest pet peeves at wrestling shows is when they don't have guardrails. That drives me crazy, because a lot of the fans think that they can just go ahead and, I've seen instances where fans will come and count, will grab a wrestler, try and shake him to get up when he's on the outside. Those kind of things. I've seen them like want to grab a shirt or a belt or something like that and touch it, because here's another thing. A lot of times there's no security, and from what I've seen, a lot of the times when they do have security, they're actual hired security that know nothing about wrestling, and they don't know what's supposed to happen and what's not supposed to happen, so they just let everything happen as long as there's no fights breaking out or that kind of stuff. My other pet peeve on indie wrestling shows is some of the chants. Now, we've all grown up hearing the holy shit chants, and when you're a worker, you love getting that chant, but when there's like 50 kids in the audience, I don't really find a holy shit chant appropriate. Like, you could do something else. Holy cow, holy poo, something other than that one. Like, I know most of the kids have heard that anyway from some of their YouTube videos and whatnot, but do we really want to get them in the habit of chanting holy shit? I don't think so. On some of the indie shows too, the entranceway, the aisleways can look second rate. Now I know depending on the venue, sometimes that's out of your hands. There's nothing you can really do about it. But there's got to be something you could do that doesn't cost money to make the entranceway look a little bit, just a little bit spiffier. And I've wrestled in a lot of venues where the aisleway was crappy, and I've wrestled with a lot of good aisleways. The other thing I find at most venues, I talked about this on an earlier episode, is the chairs are all flat around the ringside. So if there's a 6-foot guy in the front row and a little kid is sitting behind him, he can't see. So I wish that they had bleachers, but I know, like, it's not easy to find a venue for wrestling, and some of these things you can't do anything about, and the kid's gonna end up having to stand up on the mom or dad's lap or something like that, or maybe just moving a little bit to the side, and it's just hard because a lot of people miss a lot of stuff too. And one thing I don't like on indie shows as well is when they do too much stuff outside of the ring where the fans can't see. Now, it'd be ideal if the fans all got up and followed them, but then you'd have like a stampede and So I understand it's best to just keep most of the stuff in the ring. If you do like something to the outside, try and do it where everyone can see it, and then get back in the ring. But like, if you do a dive, let's say, to the outside, and then you're on the ground and you're kicking them or something, no one else can see that but the people on the other side. A dive, everyone can see. But if you're gonna kick them, throw them back in the ring and then kick them, so then they could see it, and they could see the facial expressions of the person that's in pain or whatnot. But those are just a couple things I know of. Also, have your refs dress appropriately. A ring announcer, I don't want to see a ring announcer going out in just like a wrestling T-shirt. And I like when it looks professional and makes it feel like it's more important and stuff like that for the refs and the announcers and whatnot. Also, sometimes bathrooms are an issue where the bathrooms are located in the venue, but you almost have to have someone watching, making sure people are not trying to come in backstage, or you have little kids peeking and watching guys put together their matches, or girls. And so you just got to keep an eye out for those kind of things. But there's a lot of great things about indie wrestling that I find are better than the big shows. It's way more intimate. When you're working and there's only 100 to 200 people in the crowd, it's like you can connect with each and every one. And also, like, when you go out for intermission or after the show, I find the indie wrestlers are more generous. They're on the up, they're coming up, and they're trying to get their name out there. They're much more willing to take pictures and gives autographs and stuff like that, and it can be a really great thing. The indie wrestling shows, I find it's hard to tell stories though, because like I said, you may have your core base of 50 people to come to every show, and you may be getting 200 every show, but those other 150 are interchangeable, or they're just coming every 3 shows, so they may not know the stories. Maybe you should have like a program or something for them to read, because there's a lot of waiting around. I find a lot of times the doors are open like an hour early, and people want to get there to get good seats, so they get there and then they're just sitting there doing nothing for an hour. You gotta have, most people will play music, or some people will have like a VIP match or something like that, but even if you just printed out a little black and white program or something to get people on, or maybe have a screen, maybe have like a little screen and show videos of the last shows. You know how WWE always does at every pay-per-view, they have like a 3-minute clip of everything leading up to it. You could have that kind of stuff that would put the stories over, so when the people come out for their match, they know where they're going with it and how they feel. But I feel indie wrestling is a lot better on a lot of levels, just because, like I said, it's way more intimate. But I want to hear from you guys, like, what's the pros and cons? What are your little pet peeves that you can't stand to see on an indie show? And what are the things that you like better about being at an indie show? Because as always, on the W.I.L.L.I.W show, like her, you get a leg drop. Comment, or you get a clothesline. Subscribe, or you get a suplex. I'm your host, Elian Habanero. I love wrestling. Cuba!